Dave Birkett here, along with Carlos Monarrez, for a special Christmas edition of the podcast, shooting a couple days early. So if you're seeing this on Facebook Live, just pretend it's Christmas, I guess, right?
It's always Christmas when you see Dave Birkett.
Always Christmas here in Allen Park because, I don't know, it's just that time of year. There's some holiday cheer in the air. I'm feeling pretty good right now. It's kind of a...
Christmas came early for Dave. Oh, we don't have to get into all the details,
Christmas
but he
came
had
early.
a very good flight to Denver, right?
Yeah, look, Carlos likes to make fun of some of those of us who travel because every once in a while we'll stumble upon a bump, right? I think travelers out there understand that every once in a while flights are oversold and they're looking for people with flexible travel schedules. And, well, I happened to take a bump on Saturday on my way to Denver. And it just, it's a good time of year because it helps defray the cost of Christmas gifts. And,
you're going to give me something really nice this year.
You got two kids. I am. Well, look, I have a hat here. Usually we do our Christmas video and now podcast. Make sure you're subscribing on iTunes and wherever else you can find them. I don't know. But usually we do them in Christmas hats, and this time we just have my Michigan State hat where we're going to pull some names out of the hat, some Lions names, and hand out Christmas gifts.
Well, we were planning to do it tomorrow.
Correct.
But then it turns out we may not be here at Allen Park tomorrow. So
little change of plans with the Lions schedule. Look, give the the Lions are changing their schedule up a little bit. Players won't be in Wednesday. Taking the day off. Matt Patricia giving them the day off. So kudos to him. Kudos to me, as Max Scherzer would say. No, kudos to him.
John Elway, I'd like to thank John Elway. So
yeah, exactly. But we always do our, we like to hand out gifts this time of year. Just, be positive about things because especially in a season like this.
I'm Mr. Positive, Dave. You don't have to tell me that.
I've heard that. You are Mr. Positive. I think. But, it's been a long season. I think we can all agree on that. And so we want to, start 2020 off the right way and just, Happy New Year wishes to everyone. And if we could gift somebody a little something for the new year, that's what we're here to do. So, all right, before we get into that, Carlos, I'm just going to spring this on you real quick. So as I'm talking, think about this. I tend to do this sometimes with you too, but just
no
because
prep, Birkett. Yeah. Okay.
Well, just because we're also closing in on the end of a decade here, and I heard a little bit of talk about this on the radio last week, and I meant to. I figure we're probably only shooting one video this week, just given the schedule.
Thursday we'll shoot another one.
Will we shoot another
preview?
One?
Yeah.
Well, okay. I guess I could bring it up then, but since I already teased it here, I'm just going to bring it up now anyway. End of the decade, and look, it hasn't been a great decade for the Lions. Obviously, 3 playoff appearances, no playoff victories. But I was thinking, just sort of what's been the biggest moment, the biggest event, I guess, for the Lions this decade. And again, you can think about that as I'm talking here, but. Look, they drafted Ndamukong Suh. That was 2010, right? They pass on Aaron Donald. Maybe that's a big event in a negative way. To make the playoffs for the first time after really that decade of nothingness. When Matt Millen was around, when they make the playoffs in 2011, picking the flag up in the Dallas game. I think there's a number of things you can point to. Obviously, the regime changes, from Schwartz to Caldwell to Patricia. So I wanted to ask you, Carlos, one event, one moment for the Lions this decade. I don't know. How are you going to remember this decade for the Lions? What is the one moment, the one event that stands out to you?
Naming Matt Millen the general manager, I think.
That was 2000. This decade.
Oh,
2010.
I'm sorry, from 2010 to 2010.
Obviously, the Millen.
You mentioned Millen. Okay, all right. 2010.
Did I mention Millen?
Yeah.
No, I was saying that making the playoffs in
After
2011.
Millen.
Yeah,
Since
after
2010. Ooh, that's kind of a tough one. Calvin Johnson retiring, right? I mean, early out of the blue kind of a thing, and it's caused a lot of consternation.
It absolutely has.
So that's been unfortunately, I mean, I think that's one of the big things that stands out, and I think at some point they will rectify it. They'll give Calvin some kind of money back. I think $6 million supposedly, something like that.
1.5.
1.5.
1.5. 1.6 million.
1.6. I'm sorry. 1.6. So someone will cut him a check. Everybody will be happy. He'll come back into the fold, get elected to the Hall of Fame as a Lion, all this stuff. It'll all be great. But yeah, that was the one kind of ugly moment, I think, that stood out.
That's a good one. I hadn't thought about that one, but as we look back, right, in the 90s, I mean, certainly you remember Barry runs and some of the, with the playoff win, but what did we do this July, right? Barry walking away from the game. And, I can see 5 years from now or 6 years from now, whatever it is, Kelvin walking away from the game. We're doing a little retrospective on that.
But will they patch that up sooner rather than later?
Yeah, I think they're
coming up soon.
It's a year from now. It's a year from now. I mean, I'll be presenting his case in 13 months, essentially. So they don't have a lot of time. I think at some point, yes. I'm not sure anymore that it's going to happen before the Hall of Fame. I mean, I think both sides are fairly entrenched in their positions. The Lions believe they handled it right. They didn't take all the money back. They settled on half of it. Kelvin. I don't think he was happy with it at the time, but certainly it's become a bigger issue as the time has went on. Just having to pay money back. Certainly he wants that money back. And I think at some point they will rectify it, but I'm not sure it's going to be before he goes into Canton.
In case any of the Lions ownership people are watching this video or anybody higher up, I'll say this. This is my public service announcement to the organization: is it's going to get patched up. You're going to mend the fence. Do it sooner rather than later. Do it when it counts, so that everybody can be happy in Canton and everybody be there. You get a piece of that, like we've said. There's really not anybody else on the horizon. Even if Alex Harris gets in, he's passed away. He's not going to be there. You can't really celebrate him the same way. So make it right. Pay him off. If it's $1.5 million, whatever it is, I mean, that's, if you fire a coaching staff, you pay them anyway about that much, right? $2 million or whatever it might be.
Ooh, more.
So
$5 million a year or so, whatever they have in their contract.
Yeah, so that's not that much really that you got to eat to make one of your best players in franchise history happy. Make it right.
I think that's a valid point there, and you're right. I mean, maybe there's some cap ramifications or something. Maybe they have to account for that on the NFL side, but certainly you could pay him a personal services contract that accounts for all that money and more. Barry gets
Tax
paid
deductible.
To do it. Yeah. All right.
What's yours?
Yeah, mine. I guess I would say that picking up the flag in 2014,
It was face guarding. It was a legal play. What are you talking about?
No, I think. Look, I've said it before.
There were a lot of other things that happened after that play.
Absolutely, and that's not the single biggest reason.
And Matthew Stafford should have thrown to Calvin Johnson, who was running completely free in the middle of the field.
We've dissected that one too, a time or two. But I think everything that happened in the fallout from that game, right? I mean, they were so close to winning their first game in 25 years, their first playoff game in 25 years, and. I don't know. It's not like I think they were going to be a Super Bowl team had they won it, but certainly they had a chance. The next week they were going to Seattle. I think Ndamukong Suh was fired up for that game. You remember how emotional he was after that loss for the Lions, the Cowboys game, because that was his last season. Things went completely haywire the next year, right? They start off 1-7. Look, if they win a playoff game the year before, I don't think Martin Mayhew, Tom Lawan, I don't think everybody gets fired midseason because there's still that good vibe of hey, you know what, we're having a rough spot, but we won a playoff game last year. That's what prompted the whole regime change. Bob Quinn came in, Matt Patricia's in now. I just think there was a whole lot around that whole moment. So yes, a decade from now we're going to look back at Kelvin retiring and remember that happening in the teens here, the 2000 teens. But I think we're also going to remember that Dallas game for a long, long time still.
So you're saying that if they win that game, then Bill Ford stays basically in power, and they don't remove his buddy Tom Lawan. I can see Sheila and Steve Hemp clicking off right now on Facebook Live. So
no, I don't know. I mean, obviously the unfortunate passing of William Clay Ford, a couple months later, and certainly that we can all admit was a factor in the regime change, right?
Sure.
I mean,
Absolutely.
Rod Wood takes over instead of Tom Lawan, but I do think that there's probably a little more leeway when you're coming off a playoff win, the first one in 25 years. That all of a sudden you sort of you can stomach some of the downs, the dips, because you just had an up, and who knows what that up was, and who knows maybe if they have some of that success, who knows how the next year starts off because.
Was that Caldwell's first year then?
Caldwell's first year was 2014. They made the playoffs. That's when they went 11-5, lost to the Cowboys. Second year was when they started off 1-7.
Right.
They fire everybody. Bob Quinn's hired at the start of his third season. Then Caldwell has the 2006 season.
When you think about it, that's Caldwell's first season. And he was billed as kind of the quarterback whisperer, with Peyton Manning and Joe Flacco and all this stuff, and they beat Dallas. I mean, he would have been beatified almost. I mean, it would have been like, oh my God, Jim Caldwell is the answer. He's the guy we've been waiting for. It would have bought him so much time and leeway, you know, like you said. I mean, that it would have been fascinating, Dave, if we could go back and change the hands of time.
One picking up the flag, and again,
Good call.
you know, I don't think it was pass interference, but I think there was a defensive hold before.
Yeah.
And what you said earlier, there were a lot of reasons why they lost that game, not just that flag, right? They had 2 more opportunities. Yeah. They couldn't get a stop on defense. You know, the shank punt. Stafford had a couple turnovers on the Lions' last 2 drives, so there were a lot of reasons why they ended up losing that game beyond picking up the flag. But that moment itself was, had they not picked up the flag, I think there's a very good chance the Lions win that game. And here we are now.
Good call. I'm right, but good call. Good try.
All right. So, again, Christmas Day edition here of the podcast. Hopefully everyone is enjoying their Christmas presents and, maybe checking things out on Alexa, online, however you listen to your podcasts, and you're giving us a click. One last game left in the Lions season, Carlos. What are we looking at? 3-10-1 right now? 3-11-1 right now. Green Bay Packers on tap this weekend. And let me pull out the trusty Michigan State bucket hat that I've used for about 10 straight training camps here.
If someone sends you a nicer hat for training camp, will
I wear it? Depends what's on it. I mean, this thing is, it's treated me well. You guys have seen it before.
Like if it was blue and orange with the Cal State Fullerton logo, would you wear it?
Wow, that would be tough. I don't know that I could. I don't know that I could bring myself.
I've seen you wear Michigan stuff before.
I've said this before. I am a big. I would probably wear that Cal State Fullerton thing because I am a big supporter of FSU, Free Stuff University. Whoever wants to give it to me, I'm more than happy to support your team. So yeah, I probably would.
One of the funny running jokes on the desk at the Free Press is that we had another editor there a while back, Bernie Zarnecki, and it's a long story, but he used to refer to Cal State Fullerton as Fullerton State University, kind of not through his own fault, but he was kind of misguided that way. But
you took offense to it as a.
I tried to explain it to him, and he, Bernie was very set in his ways. I don't know if you ever knew him or not, but. But it was always a running joke in the sports department. Every time Cal State Fullerton would make the College World Series, whatever, it'd be like Fullerton State, So FSU, yeah.
FSU. Well, see, Carlos, for those who don't know out there, he's obviously a California guy, Fullerton grad. I don't think maybe you just didn't want to go to Pepperdine or what? That's my school, the school that I love.
Well, they shot too much Baywatch there. I didn't want to get in the Pam Anderson should be annoying and Hasselhoff. I didn't want any part of that scene. That's for like the Hollywood set.
That's right. You you just didn't want it. You thought if you were out there, they would want you to be on the show. You want to concentrate on your studies. Right?
Absolutely, they kept bugging me about it. Show me your abs, all that stuff. Yeah. I felt kind of like objectified. One funny thing about Cal State Fullerton is
I feel that way all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. The LA Rams used to when they were out there, they used to hold training camp at Cal State Fullerton. So and then when we'd start school in the late, I want to say. In the late summer, you might still see some remnants of Rams stuff out there. Now they do it They used to do it at UC Irvine. I think the first year they moved out there from St. Louis. I don't know. I don't think they do it at Irvine anymore. I forget where they are, El Segundo or something.
Yeah, new facility opening up for the Rams pretty soon, which should be pretty amazing. So I think that's part of that whole complex, if I'm not mistaken, that's happening out there. All right, so let's get to this so we can get out and celebrate Christmas with the family and do all those good things. I know you have
my gift yet.
Yeah, it's I don't know what we got here. Batteries. A 4-pack Energizer batteries.
How did you know?
Double A's. Figured you needed them.
It's what I've always wanted.
There you go. Water too. Half-drink bottle of water. No.
Nice airport water.
All right. You know what? For a present, I'm going to let you pick first. All right. We got six names here. 6 names in the hat. You go ahead and. This is kind of tricky doing this with the microphone now, but all right, we'll do that. You got first pick, so you go ahead and pick a name out.
All right. Darius Slay.
Oh, I was hoping to get Slay myself.
No. Santa likes me more.
Maybe Santa put 2 Slays in there.
Maybe. Sleigh ride. Yeah, no, Darius Slay, I think he proved once again, on Sunday, as you mentioned in your Stock Up, Suck Down, I mentioned it as well.
Great story. Read it, by the way.
Absolutely. Have to read mine. That he showed he had 2 breakups in the end zone. Cortland Sutton, 1,000-yard receiver. He limited him to like 41 yards or something like that. He showed his value yet again, and if you just remove all the politics, all the stuff of maybe the way he's kind of not been happy about wanting that contract extension, the way that the Lions haven't maybe been happy about the way he's kind of handled some of the things when he's been a little bit more outspoken. not the style of the regime. If you remove all that and just look at him as a player, I think he has way more value for the Lions of sticking around. I hope, my present to Slay is that they can work it out. He can stay there. I hope they give him a contract extension. But if they don't, that he's still around for another year.
Yep.
And I think he provides a lot more value to the team than he would in draft capital, because he's a 3-time Pro Bowler. Even if you get a number 1 or number 2, whatever it is out of it, or a 2 and a 3 or something, chances are they're not going to be the player that Slay is. He's been healthy, he's been committed, he's still playing well with not a lot to play for at the end of the year. So I'd like to see him work it out and stay another year.
I'll second that. Give the man a new contract. That'd be a good gift for him to get here in 2020. Matthew Stafford for me.
Oh, wow, your boy.
My boy. I'm going to give Matthew Stafford some renewed health because, he was off to such a good start this season. And, he played through the injury last year. He's played through a number of injuries in the past. A shame, really, I think, that we couldn't see him finish out what he started. I mean, I would have liked to have seen not only what this team looks like now. I don't think they would have been a playoff contender, but certainly better than a 3-win team. But just to see if he could continue the hot streak that he was on. I mean, we've seen in the past, right, where defenses catch up to offenses or offensive coordinators or play calling. But I think Matthew had, they had a little something special going on offense this year. And for my money, I'd like to see him back healthy, playing a full 16 games next year. And so that way we can see what this offense can do and we can see what he can do. I mean, this will be year 12 for him next year, right?
That's when they really hit their stride, Dave.
Jim Caldwell would say year 12, 13, 14 is where they hit their stride. But I think we're at the very sort of end of the prime of his career. This is sort of, quarterbacks in their early 30s. That's sort of the end of it. So I'd like to see him have, and that's not to say he can't play for another, 5 or 7 years or whatever, but putting up big numbers, if he can stay healthy, what this offense can do. I want to give Matthew Stafford good health in 2020 so that way we can see what this Lions team can be.
I second that too. And I think one of the things questions I got on the blog yesterday was like, well, if they'd had Stafford, what do you think? How many more wins? It's hard to put a number on it, but I did look at it. I would have said they beat the Bears twice. They beat Washington and they beat Dallas, I think. So that's 4 more wins. They win, and that's earlier. They're in November.
Right.
They have 7 wins in November. That's still being in, not out of the playoff hunt, in contention, playing meaningful games. They're not eliminated quite so quickly. That changes kind of the face of the season a little bit for the team. They're not in panic mode and who's getting fired, and maybe the Fords don't have to come out and say something necessarily. They see it play out. They still may not have, made the playoffs, but they would have been in the fight longer. So it would be good to see him healthy.
That's certainly what the approach the Fords have taken, thinking that had Matthew Stafford been healthy, they would still be in this thing, and hence why Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia got another year. So, all right, you're up next. Two more each here.
All right. Oh, speaking of Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia, here we go. The general manager and the coach. So this is what I hope for them. This is my gift to them, my Santa gift, is they have one more year to prove that they can put this thing in the right direction. And my gift to them is I hope they get to do it their way. Whatever that means, drafting the kind of player that you want. If you want to, trade down, trade up to go get Chase Young or Joe Burrow, whatever it is, any kind of crazy scenario you might imagine, I hope they do it the way that they want to do it, and they don't have to worry about political considerations like Stafford doesn't want the heir apparent nipping at his heels if it's Joe Burrow, whatever it is, getting a really good, solid Case Keenum or someone like that, or Nick Foles quarterback, do it the way they want to do it so that they give themselves the best chance to have a good season, regardless of, who gets their, gets a little, offended or whatever you might say. So let them do it. Let them draft. Let them go through free agency. If they don't want Slay, get rid of Slay. Whatever it is they want to do, let them do it their way.
I like it. I'd give Bob Quinn options, just options in the draft. Whether you're at 2 or 3, maybe Chase is there, maybe you can trade down. The more options, the merrier, the better you can build the team. Let's see what I got here. Kenny Galladay. Kenny Galladay, great year for Kenny so far. I mean, leads the NFL in touchdown catches.
He's not a Pro Bowler. Who cares?
Well, that's what I want to give. No, look, there's 2 things I guess that I'd give him, right? Sometimes you give your kids a couple presents, you kind of wrap it up. You put that little bow on that kind of holds, or the string you tie it together.
What kind of head games are you playing with your kids on Christmas?
Oh, I mean, I'm saying, you get the one that's wrapped, and then you put the other one that's wrapped, and you tie the string around to make them, sort of be one present together, the two of them. I would give Kenny two things. I would give him one, a Pro Bowl appearance in 2020. He's probably not going to make it this year just because the people in front of him.
As a reserve?
Yeah, I think he's the third alternate right now, but I don't know that anyone in front of him is going to miss because of injury. Mike Thomas is there. Maybe the Saints go to the Super Bowl, so maybe one pulls out. But, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Julio, I think are the other ones. None of those are even going to be in the playoffs. So I think it'll be tough for him to get in as the third alternate. He deserves one next year. I think he's really emerged as a big-time receiver in this league. And the thing that comes along with that, maybe the bigger present, the one underneath, the second one you get to, that's a new contract. 3 years in, the Lions can finally give him a new deal. He's going to get paid $16+ million a year. And look, not that you're struggling playing in the NFL on third-rounder money. I mean, let's be honest, right? He's still making $1 million a year, whatever it is. But that's a pretty significant raise for a guy that came into the league as a late third-round draft pick. That's really worked hard and I think done a lot of the right things here. Had some injuries his first year, played well last year. I think this year has really come into his own. Maybe he even finishes this season as the Lions catch leader. We'll see. One more game to go there. It could be Amendola.
I second that. I mean, this is one of those guys who is definitely a hit for Bob Quinn. I mean, the Lions don't have a lot of right now, second contract guys. They need to hold on to their good players that they've developed who've played well for them.
Yep.
It makes a lot of sense. Hey, Kenny, just one little thing, little tip for you is one of the reasons that you get elected to the Pro Bowl is when you're a star and you got name recognition. The more you talk to the media, not just us, but everywhere, you got to play the game a little bit and be a known quantity out there. I mean, that's part of it. It's just, people know who you are, you're a star. And he's played well enough, to deserve that. An NFL touchdown leader, over 1,000 yards. Yep. He deserves more consideration. And he's been available, no question, he's been available. But just a little bit more willingness on his part to tell his story and be out there.
He's going to be down at Super Bowl this year, Radio Row. So hopefully that'll be a start of it. Yeah. We'll sit down and do a little podcast. Find me down there, Kenny. All right, last one for you.
Okay. Oh, Kyle Sloter date.
I thought you were going to say Kyle Van Noy for a second.
Kyle Van Noy, yeah, KVB. And Marissa. No, it's Kyle Sloter. It's the Lions' backup.
Call him Slow Dog.
Slow Dog. He's Fast Dog. He says he's got some wheels. So we talked to him in the locker room today, and he's got a really interesting story. I mean, you're going to read about it, on the free press from my, excellent pen and typewriter or whatever. But it's
typewriter.
Yeah, me and Okora.
80?
Didn't you read my story with Okora typewriter?
I did, but
yeah, typewriter. That's how I roll. I got 2 typewriters at home. Anyway, he's got an interesting story. He's kind of one of these. He says he's undrafted guy out of Colorado. He started at Southern Miss, and they told him everywhere he's been, high school, college, they told him he can't play. He's not going to do this. He changed positions to receiver to try to get on the field at Southern Miss. Transferred to Colorado, was undrafted, went to what was it, Denver, and then Minnesota, and then here. And so he's always been one of these guys who, and he accepts his fate. He understands. He said there's not a lot of Tony Romos and Kurt Warners out there, undrafted guys. He understands the whole thing of you draft guys to be the franchise face, and you got to play them, But he has a lot of confidence in himself. He says, all he needs is an opportunity. He's not saying he's going to get it this week necessarily, but I'd like to see him get an opportunity. I'd like to see him play Sunday, even if he, you said in your stock down, I think you gave Blau a stock down and said, in 4 games, he's kind of hasn't been able to do as much as he did in that first game. So, yes, you want to win the game. I don't think that playing Sloter is mutually exclusive or mutually, they're not mutually exclusive, you know. Not saying you're giving up on the game by playing him. I'd like to see what he has.
I agree. I'd like to see what he has. That's 2019, though, not 2020, Carlos. So you messed up the whole segment. That's
2019? Right. What is it?
Yeah.
Oh, for 2020?
For giving a New Year. But no.
No, this is not New Year's. It's Christmas presents.
Oh, Christmas. Oh, yeah. Okay. Maybe it is. All right. We sometimes we do it for New Year's.
Sunday.
I don't know. Forget it. All right, last one. You didn't mess it up then. I messed it up. Open this thing up. The Lions 2019 rookie class. That's kind of a broad one, but I'm going to give them better health in 2020. TJ Hawkinson, injury reserve. Jelani Tavai, injured reserve. 4th-round pick Austin Bryant missed half the season on injured reserve. Look, it's just been a bad year health-wise for these young guys, and I think obviously they're going to be an important part of anything the Lions do coming up next year, especially T.J. Hawkinson, 1st-round pick. I think especially Jelani Tavai. I mean, the Lions were counting on him, and I thought he played pretty well in his role when we saw him on the field this year. So I just want health for those guys so we can get, a fair evaluation of them. And Tavai, look, it's the same shoulder that he hurt in Hawaii. Missed a lot of that season with that. You don't want those injuries recurring. T.J. Hawkinson obviously had that really great first game, and then he was pretty darn quiet after that. He had the bad concussion, and then he obviously ended with the ankle injury. So health for him, because obviously when it comes to concussions, you never want anybody to deal with that. But I think there is some potential in that rookie group there, and in order for the Lions, in order for them to reach it, I think they need to stay healthy and stay on the field in 2020.
Yeah, that's well said. And I like to see, harkening back to Stafford and what he did under Bevel, you'd like to see that offense get as good of a shot as they can to prove that with all the health, Stafford, all these other guys, the rookies, give themselves the best chance. They played really well early in the season. Let's see what they can do if they're fully healthy.
Let's see what they can do if they are healthy. Let's see what the Lions can do Sunday against the Green Bay Packers, last game of the season. And just to recap, since we didn't talk much draft here, if they lose, right now they're in the number 3 spot in the draft order. If they lose and Washington wins, they move up to number 2. If they lose and Washington loses, the Lions will stay number 3. If they win, they could fall as low as number 5. So guaranteed a top 5 draft pick right now. They should be in a good position next year. We talked about Bob Quinn earlier when you were handing out gifts, and Matt Patricia, to have some options to maybe be able to improve that roster, improve their team for 2020, and hopefully take a step forward. So that gives us plenty more to talk about next year at this time. Merry Christmas to you, Carlos. Merry Christmas to the family. Merry Christmas to everyone out there watching and listening. Hopefully everyone out there has a happy holiday season and a great new year. Best of luck to everyone in 2020. That'll do it for us here in Allen Park. I'm Dave Birkett for Carlos Monarrez, Freep.com.